Hello everyone, welcome to Valken. Today we step into the world where men were not born, they were forged, where pain becomes a teacher and fear is the enemy. This is not just about history, it is about what it means to be unbreakable. In this episode, we uncovered the seven life principles of Spartans, the codes that shaped warriors who stood against empires, who chose death before weakness, and who turned discipline into destiny. So, let's begin with today's episode. From birth to death, a Spartan's life was forged in fire, blood, and iron. Their society didn't create soldiers, it created living weapons. Every Spartan was a product of discipline, pain, and unrelenting willpower. To understand why Spartans were unbreakable, you must walk through seven brutal steps that shape every soul. So, let's begin with step 1, the trial of birth. The first test of Spartan strength came the moment they entered the world. Every newborn was inspected by elders of Sparta, and if they were weak, they were left on the temple of Tigetus. Only the strong survived. This merciless beginning ensured that Spartans would never raise the weak, and the strength would become their only religion. Which brings us to Step 2, the Agoge initiation. At the age of 7, Spartan boys were ripped away from their families and thrown into Agoge, a military training system designed to crush fear and breed warriors. They learned to fight, steal, endure pain, and obey without question. Food was scarce, clothes were minimal, and sleep was earned through discipline. Every boy who survived Agoge became something more than human. He became a Spartan. Which brings us to step 3, the hunger and the theft. Starvation was deliberate. In the Agoge, boys were intentionally unnerved to push their limits and teach them cunning. They were encouraged to steal food, but if caught, they weren't punished for stealing, they were punished for being careless. It wasn't just training for the body, it was training for the mind to teach them survival, adaptability, and silence under pain. Which brings us to step 4, the whip of endurance. At the temple of Artemis Orthia, young Spartans were flogged publicly to test their ability to endure suffering. They were not allowed to cry or collapse, no matter how deep the lash tore into their flesh. Many died from the beatings, but those who stood firm earned honor and immortality in the eyes of their people. Pain became their closest companion. Which brings us to part 5, the Brotherhood of Shields. In battle, Spartans were taught a secret truth. You fight for the man beside you. The shield wasn't just defense, it was trust. To drop it was the greatest shame. The bond turned soldiers into a single unbreakable unit. Each man's life depended on another's discipline. Through this unity, Sparta became invincible not through numbers but through loyalty and brotherhood. Which brings us to step 6, the art of fearlessness. Spartans were trained to erase fear itself. They faced mock battles, night ambushes, and surprise punishments. Every situation was designed to break them, but none did. Death was not something they avoided, it was something they prepared for. A Spartan would rather die on his feet than live on his knees, for in their hearts, fear was true enemy. Which brings us to the final step, the philosophy of pain and glory. The final step of Spartan discipline were not physical, they were spiritual. Spartans were taught that pain purifies struggle, strengthens, and honor last forever. To retreat was unthinkable, to surrender was disgrace. Their entire existence was bound by one unshakable code to live without weakness and to die without fear. That is why the world still remembers them, not for their numbers, but for their spirit.